Hey everybody, it's Josh here again, and today we're going to be talking about the CISSP certification. I have a pretty strong opinion and potentially controversial opinion about the cert, but we'll get into that in a little bit. In this video, I'm going to quickly cover what the CISSP is and then kind of talk about and describe my experience in getting the cert. I'm also going to break down the CISSP and how it can benefit your career, like what exactly it can do for you. And then I'm going to cover what it can't do for you. And then I'm going to talk about what it can potentially do for you. There's kind of three separate distinctions that I can make, and I thought that would be important. I'm also going to talk about salary as it pertains to CISSP and why CISSPs are perceived to make a lot of money. I'm also going to tell you how having a CISSP has affected my career personally. And finally, we're going to discuss whether it's worth your time to go after the certification, like kind of some questions you can ask yourself to decide if you should go for a CISSP or not. So if you're excited for all of this, go ahead and smash the like button and let's get started. So just really quick before we get started, if I say anything in this video that you disagree with or that sounds weird, I really want to hear your opinion about it in the comments. So I'm totally open to having my perspective changed, but I won't have that chance if you don't, tear me apart in the comments or, call me out or something. So please, if I say something that's weird or you disagree with, just let me know. So getting into what CISSP is, if you already know and you don't care, just use the bookmarks and skip to the next section. CISSP is a vendor-neutral certificate offered by ISC². It stands for Certified Information Systems Security Professional. It's kind of put on this pedestal and looked at as one of the best security certs that can get you like a high salary, but I have a lot of reservations about this again, but we'll get into that pretty soon. To even be eligible to have like a full-blown CISSP, you have to have worked in at least 2 of the 8 security domains for a total of 5 years. This can be shortened to 4 years if you have one of ISC²'s kind of approved security certificates or if you have a bachelor's degree in a relevant security field. So there's a kind of misconception going around that you have to have worked in security for 5 years in order to be eligible for CISSP. It's not totally true. It's, if you read the requirements, it's you have to have worked in 2 of the 8 domains for 5 years or 4 years if you have the degree in certs. So for example, what this means is if you're like a help desk admin even, and you for your full-time job you regularly work in like asset security or identity and access management for 4 or 5 years, you're eligible to take the CISSP, and if you pass you can become a full-blown CISSP. You don't have to have like a security title for 4 or 5 years. You just have to work in the domains. And if you totally don't have the experience at all, like you're brand new or you have worked in security for like 1 year or something, you can still take and pass the CISSP and you'll be awarded the title of like associate of ISC², which can turn into the full-blown CISSP once the time requirement is met. So just keep that in mind. So getting into how I got the CISSP, at the time, I wasn't even working in security. It was back in 2015. I just worked in 3 of the 10 domains. The domains were different at the time, but I met the requirement because I worked in the domains, and I took it and passed the exam, and I got my credential. And I just want to touch on real quick how I studied for the exam, because I'm sure it will be helpful to somebody. But basically, I tried to read a book first, but the book I got was like so dry, and it kept putting me to sleep. It just was really shitty, essentially. So basically what I did is I got a whole bunch of practice questions from a bunch of different places, essentially. So the first one I got the practice questions from what was then called Transcender. Now I think it's called CyberVista. So in 2015 is when I took the exam. So I basically obtained the 2012 and 2015 practice question sets, and those ended up amounting to something like 1,800 total questions just from that one source. And then I went to CCCure and I got the 2012 and 2015 question sets from there, and that was like another 1,600 questions. And then I got this book, which I didn't read this book either. I just used it for the practice questions. I got like Sean Harris 6th edition, and there was about like 460 practice questions in there. So basically in total I had it was around like 5,000, maybe a little less than 5,000 total unique practice questions. And I just kind of went through those, and as I was going through the practice questions, anything I didn't understand from the question, I kind of pulled that content out and made another like question in this flashcard app called Anki. I have another video talking about that. Go ahead and check out the card up above for more information on that. So basically I had that like 4,000 to 5,000 questions, and I made like another 2,000 questions, another 2,000 custom flashcards, like another 2,000 questions with Anki. And then inside the CyberVista or the Transcender, there was like another like built-in, it was like 2,000 flashcards, I think. So I went through those also, and basically I just did all those questions and I just drilled them really hard, and then I put them in Anki and I drilled Anki really hard until I was getting like really comfortable. I was almost at the point where I was bored studying. And to give you some kind of time, like a number for time, it took me, I studied for exactly, I believe it was 92 days and about 3 hours per day. So you can calculate that as maybe like 270 hours, I guess it took me to study for CISSP. Bear in mind, before this, I had like CompTIA Security Plus and like a few other certificates as well. So you can kind of, factor those in. But I studied for about 270 hours or so. And then when I went to go take the test, at the time, the test was a total of 250 total questions. And I think there was like a 6-hour time limit, like something insane like this. And I remember I marked down like all the questions. Like I had no idea, I had no idea how to answer it. Flat out guessed on a total of 63 of the 250. And then there was like a few questions that were like really easy, maybe like 20 to 30 like really easy questions. And then the rest they were pretty hard, but I pretty much knew the answer to those ones. And I remember taking it. I didn't have like a single question on it, encryption, which was really weird. But anyway, at the end of the test, like before I clicked like submit, I kind of calculated like how many I guessed on versus how many there were. And then before I submitted, I was like, okay, I probably passed this, because assuming half the ones I guessed on were right, I was like well over the passing mark. But yeah, so that's essentially how I got it. I ended up passing the first time. It took me 3.5 hours of sitting in that exam room. And that was pretty brutal. But this was in 2015, before I had my actual purely security focused job. So next, I want to get into the things that getting CISSP will actually do for you, as in there's no argument, it will help you in these ways. So first and foremost, CISSP is the absolute best HR filter for anything in security. More than likely, like any security job, like the HR kind of job posting is going to have the word CISSP in it. Probably, unless it's like super entry level or something. Most of them are going to have CISSP, and it serves for like above like any kind of knowledge or skill gained getting the certificate. Above anything else, it's the absolute best certificate for filtering HR for security jobs. And this is actually, oddly enough, how I ended up getting my first interview for like a real security job, and then subsequently getting the job. Someone at my work noticed I had CISSP just from LinkedIn. Like I didn't even say anything, and there was like an opening in my company, and the dude was like, "Josh, you have CISSP, you should apply for this." And in my head, I was like, it doesn't really mean anything. But I was like, all right, so I applied for it, and because I had that and the guy noticed it, I got an interview. Like after you get the interview, like CISSP doesn't really help you, and like no one cares about it essentially, but it will definitely help you get interviews, and it will definitely get you spammed by recruiters. This is like not really arguable. So another thing that CISSP will objectively help you with is if you want to work in defense in some capacity. Like if you work at like on a military base as a defense contractor, or like a full-time federal GS employee, the government kind of classifies it security jobs using something called like DoD Directive 8570, and then DoD, what is the new one, like 8140, I believe. They classify their jobs in like a bunch of different ways. They have like IAT, which is Information Assurance Technical, I think, then IAM, which is Information Assurance Management, then IASAE, which is Information Assurance Systems Architects and Engineers, and they have like level 1, 2, and 3 for all of these. And if you get CISSP, it will automatically kind of make you eligible for IAM and IAT level 3, and it will make you eligible for SAE level 2 jobs. Just getting CISSP, like boom, you're like kind of eligible for all of those. There might be other certificate requirements depending on the job, but getting CISSP will like automatically check that box for you. So if you want to work in defense, you should definitely get CISSP. And I would encourage you to kind of Google like DoD 8570 and was that 8140, just to kind of read a little bit more about it. But yeah, for sure, get CISSP if you want to work in defense. And the last thing CISSP will do for you, and this one's kind of lofty, it's kind of hard to quantify, but it kind of, if you go through the whole process of learning what you need to learn and like, doing everything that you need to do to get CISSP, it will kind of change your mindset from less of like a technical kind of thinker to more of like a managerial kind of thinker. Like you kind of have to put yourself in the seat of like a CEO or like someone else on the C-suite, like the CISO or CISO or something like this, because it makes you think like a little bit less about like technical weeds and more about like the business as a whole. So instead of like talking about how to configure a firewall, then you'll more likely think about like the cost of the firewall and maintaining it versus the cost of the information that it's protecting, and whether or not it's worth it to even get that new next generation firewall. And you'll think about things like annual loss expectancy, like how much you can expect to lose over a year, like given certain vulnerabilities or like certain attacks or something like this. And you'll do these like kind of like quantitative and qualitative analyses and computation to figure out like, you know, what kind of security controls make sense to protect your organization's data and this kind of thing. So you'll think less about computers and like technical weeds, and you think more in like a holistic way about the business and like maintaining availability and like what it costs, what a breach of confidentiality would cost to the business, and you know what kind of controls you need. So it'll kind of change your mindset to think more on like the high level, I suppose. I noticed that kind of happened to me. Like I didn't expect it to happen, but when I was done with the certificate, that's like kind of the only thing that mentally changed for me, is I kind of thought more on like the high, like kind of business level for things. So if you consider that a good thing, and you know you want to possibly develop that mindset, getting CISSP is probably a decent idea. So now getting into the things that CISSP won't do for you. The first thing, which is really controversial by the way, and also only my opinion, I don't think it will really make you a better security practitioner or like really necessarily make you any better at implementing security. Now the reason that I say this is because the curriculum in CISSP is so broad, the depth that it goes into is not really enough to make you really actually better at doing anything. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So for example, if you're to Google like certification and mile wide inch deep, right, without even typing CISSP anywhere, and now I do like Control F CISSP, let me make this bigger, Control F CISSP, it finds like, you know, on the first page it found, you know, 5 matches. Second page found 11 matches. Granted, they're the same URLs. Basically, like what I'm saying is like CISSP third page, 10 matches. What I'm saying with this basically is CISSP, it covers topics, it like lets you know what stuff is, but it doesn't really teach you like how to implement it or how to like really build a security program. It just tells you like, by the way, this is ISO like 27001, this is COBIT, this is like, you know, NIST 853. It just kind of like tells you like what stuff is or whatever, but or it tells you how to do like, you know, a way that you can do a risk analysis, like how to calculate risk, how to calculate like ALE and stuff like this. But it doesn't really necessarily like, it doesn't really help you to become a better practitioner in any way. Like when I finally finished getting CISSP, I was like, all right, I have CISSP now, but I didn't feel any different, and I still was like what do I do now? Like now I know better, like, you know, what to do for myself in my career. But at that time I was like, I have CISSP, what do I do? And I didn't get a security job, like a full-on security, dedicated security job for like another 3 years or so. So CISSP, it doesn't really help you get better at anything, to be honest with you. And now the last thing that I want to cover that CISSP won't really do for you is it won't get you a job like at all. It will get you a lot of recruiter spam, and it will probably get you an interview. Definitely get you an interview, but it won't get you the job. Like once you get to the interview, no one cares about like your certs or your degree, or like they don't care about any of that once you're in the interview. Like absolutely don't care. It will help you get the interview, but it will not get you a job. So you have to fill in the gap of like what you do like once you get the interview. And now I want to cover a couple of things that CISSP might do for you. Like it might do these things, it might not, like who knows. So the first thing is it might help you progress in your career. And this depends strongly on where you work. So if you're in the military, it will, and you work in, you know, information assurance or, you know, information technology in some capacity. I've never been in the military, but I've done some like reading and research. There's certain things that you can do to help your chance of getting promotion, and getting CISSP among a bunch of other certs is one of those things that can help progress your career. So if you're in some kind of work environment that recognizes certificates and cares about that kind of thing, you may have faster career progression, or, you know, get a raise or something like this. Definitely in the military, in cybersecurity and like information technology. And then the other thing that CISSP may do for you is, because so many people kind of put it on a pedestal, they have this like idea that it's like so good. having CISSP like in front of your name or next to your name or whatever, it may give people the impression that you know what you're talking about or that you're serious about your career. So as long as you're not like a douchebag or pretentious about it, which there are a lot of like people who think CISSP is so like goddamn awesome and they think they're so sick for getting it, which you're not, by the way. As long as you're not like a douchebag about it, having CISSP will give some people the impression that you know what you're doing. So if you just be humble and cool about it, it's only going to be like a net positive. Some people may not care, but some people may recognize it as you have some kind of accomplishment. So that's a good thing, I suppose. So next, I want to talk about CISSP in relation to salary. So there's this kind of conception that getting CISSP will get you some kind of salary, or getting CISSP will get you a job where you can make over 100K or something like this. And while that tends to be true, the way people think about it is not really accurate in my opinion. So CISSP itself, it's even though the cert is so shallow, it's pretty difficult to get because it's quite long, and it has like a large opportunity cost, as in it takes a lot of time to get it where you could be doing other things, and it also has a high dollar cost. Without the study materials or anything like that, just taking the cert is $700, and if you fail, that's another $700 you have to spend, and then you have to spend $85 a year to maintain it. It's just really expensive, and it just takes a long time to deal with, and you have to get all these continuing education credits to keep it. It just kind of sucks. Basically, I'm gonna get like kind of philosophical about this, but getting CISSP and like having the cert like doesn't really do anything for you as like a person intrinsically. But if you're the type of person that will spend that opportunity cost and work really hard on yourself, and you're the type of person that's willing to spend like potentially thousands of dollars to like invest in yourself and make yourself better, then you're probably the type of person who's going to make over $100,000 or something. It's not getting the certificate and having that makes you a lot of money. It's being the type of person that will go out of their way to get the certificate that will make you a lot of money. It's kind of two different things, and it's also kind of self-fulfilling. So if you're just an average Joe like sitting around working at help desk and you're like, man, I want to work in security and make a lot of money, so say you go out and you get CISSP and then eventually you make a lot of money. It's not because that you got CISSP that you make a lot of money now. It's because either you are the type of person or you became the type of person to invest a lot of time and money in yourself to go out of your way to get something as like sucky as CISSP just for your own benefit and to build on your career. That's why you make a lot of money. It's not the paper or the credential that did it for you. It's because you're intrinsically the type of person to invest in yourself, and you have to do what's necessary to get CISSP. That's why you make a lot of money. It's kind of like if you want to think about it in terms of like a video game, like take World of Warcraft for instance. You hopefully I don't lose a lot of people here, but say I'll try to generalize it, but say you have like say somebody has like a really good item, like they have a super good best in slot epic item. Chances are that they're gonna that's not the only like epic item that they have, right? They're probably gonna have like, if that item is a really good sword, chances are they're gonna probably have a good helmet or a good breastplate or like some good like pants or something like this. So just like CISSP, if you're the type of person who gets CISSP, you have it, then you're probably the type of person who has like motivation and like discipline, and how to time manage, and you're the type of person to invest in yourself. Like you probably have all these other things, and that's why you get a lot of money. It's not because CISSP, it's because you're at least some level of rock star that you went out of your way to invest in yourself and spend all that time and money. So that's kind of how I think about CISSP in relation to money. CISSP doesn't really do anything for you. It's you who does something for you. You just happen to get CISSP along the way. So getting into CISSP and what it's done for me in my career, probably like 80% of what it's done for me has been that it has served as an excellent HR filter. So if you have a decent looking resume and you have CISSP, you're probably going to get a bunch of interviews and a lot of spam by recruiters. That's the other thing. I've gotten a lot of spam. Like right when I got CISSP, even though I wasn't, looking back, I wasn't really qualified to do a lot of security work. I got so much spam from recruiters just because of CISSP. So that's pretty much how it's affected me. It hasn't done like anything in terms of my skill or like my security prowess or anything like that. It's just like purely served as an HR filter for me, and like that kind of like the process of getting an interview, like dealing with recruiters, it's helped a lot in that regard. And finally, answering the question, should you personally get CISSP? So if you answer yes to any of these questions, you might want to consider getting CISSP. So the first thing is, if you want to maximize your chance to get an interview, you should probably get CISSP. This isn't saying that if you don't have it, you won't get interviews, but if you want to maximize your chance to get interviewed, you should probably take the time and effort and energy to get CISSP. And next, if you want to have the ability to work in defense contracting or the government in any way, even if you don't now, if you want to have the opportunity to do it in the future, you should probably get CISSP. Again, it's not required, but it greatly increases your chance and helps you out on the kind of government HR filter. Helps you quite a bit in that aspect. Next, if you want HR or normal people who don't really know about security, like if you want those people to look at you as a security expert, you should probably get CISSP, because for sure, like the HR people, they don't, even if they don't really know about security, they know that acronym CISSP. And then a lot of other people who work in tech who are not necessarily in security, they know the acronym. And if you have the acronym next to your name, they're probably going to be more likely to give you an interview or kind of trust what you say, I guess, as lame as that sounds. If you want those people to have, like, perceive you as some kind of security expert or competent in security, you should probably think about getting CISSP. Again, not required, but it definitely will help. And lastly, if you're the type of person who likes to spend $700 on a certificate and spend like $85 a year, if you're just into that kind of thing, then you should probably get CISSP. And my final opinion is, if you're really serious about security, like you actually like it and you're either really new to the field or really early in your career, and if you're fine with the opportunity and the actual monetary cost of getting CISSP, you should probably go ahead and do it, because it will only help your career, especially if you're interested in, commercial work like private sector or DoD work in some capacity. It definitely won't hurt, especially if you're fine with the opportunity cost. And again, I just want to emphasize, it's not required for working in security at all. It just helps you with some certain aspects, mainly like the HR filter and kind of public perception of you, I suppose. And bear in mind, there's like a lot of really smart people in the security field who don't have CISSP or any certs at all, for that matter. And not only have they managed to get a job, they've managed to excel in their career and like become kind of like famous in the information security world. So just keep that in mind. I guess it all comes down to opportunity cost and how it benefits you. If you think that you can be fine with getting interviews with other aspects of your, like maybe you create a lot of content or something, or maybe you have a lot of experience already, like CISSP, no one cares about that anymore. Like the head of cyber command for the United States, I don't know if they have CISSP or not, but for example, that person probably doesn't need to have CISSP because they have so many other things, right? So it just depends. I would only recommend it for people early in their career, or people like who are working in tech who are not necessarily in security yet but meet the domain requirements, or someone who's like pretty new. It will definitely help you. It definitely help you get your foot in the door. But if you're already like pretty deep in your security career, I wouldn't recommend it. It's just a waste of time and money at that point. But yeah, I hope this was really helpful. Let me know, actually, for sure, if you disagree with anything I said. I really want to hear about it and kind of talk about it in the comments. So let me know if you disagree about anything. We can talk about it. But otherwise, I appreciate everybody watching. Much appreciated. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
実はもう一つ教えたいことがありますね。CISSP は一番退屈なサーティフィケーションです。ピョン